Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you all. Thank you for joining us today for the kickoff webinar for the 2025 Sector Ministers meeting. My name is Anjani Kapoor and I'm the Head of Policy at the Sanitation Water for All Partnership, and I'll be a moderator for this webinar. Before we begin, I would like to quickly share some housekeeping reminders. We have simultaneous interpretation available in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. So please select your preferred language by clicking on the globe at the bottom of the Zoom screen. I would also request you to please enter your name, organization or ministry, and the country where you're joining from in the chat box. Also use the chat function of Zoom to submit your questions, and I will pass them on to the relevant speakers. Next slide, please. Today, we have come together with a sense of purpose, but also urgency. As a sector, we aim for universal access to water, sanitation, and hygiene by 2030, which is only 5 years away. With this determination to accelerate our progress and build resilience amidst the ongoing multiple crises, we convene this webinar to initiate the preparatory process for the Sector Ministers meeting. In terms of agenda, we will discuss the preparatory process for this year's meeting at both the global and the national level. There are certain regional aspects to it as well. This will also include opening remarks from the chair of the SWA steering committee and also related announcements from the government of Spain, who's joined us today. Next slide, please. I now welcome our steering committee chair, Patrick Moriarty, who will help us set the scene for today's discussion. Thank you, Patrick, for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Great, thank you so much, Anjani, and welcome everybody. This is second time round for lots of us, I think. So, but great to be doing it again, and I guess so probably this time talking more to people in the Western Hemisphere. But anyway, you're all welcome, and I'm really looking forward to this. So welcome to this kickoff seminar for our 2025 Sector Ministers meeting. It's a pleasure to be with you as we come into our last 6 months of a really important preparatory work to make the SMM a success. Despite the turbulent times in which we find ourselves, I think I must say I'm very excited to be with you. I think that the SMMs are a high point in what our whole partnership's multi-annual calendar. It's not the only point. What comes before is very important, and even more important is what we take away from the sector ministers meeting back to our countries. But it is a crucial point in that multi-annual cycle. Let me start by extending again our very sincere thanks to the government of Spain for their generosity in agreeing to host this year's sector ministers meeting. I'm really delighted that we are joined today by representatives from the government. And again, I'd just like to emphasize how honored we are by your commitment to this collaboration. And as I said earlier, I think that Spain is really very uniquely positioned to host our event. I think many of you will be aware of the really devastating floods that hit its Valencia region last year. And that was one among many events during the year that underlined just how frightening the reality of climate change is and all the challenges that come with it. So I think Spain's commitment to work to hosting the meeting and to building climate resilience is really welcome, and is underpinned by recent lived experience. What's more, I think Spain is well known as a country with strong policies and technical expertise in integrated water resource management, in climate adaptation, in disaster risk reduction. and really as a country that stands at the forefront of global efforts for sustainable development. By hosting the meeting in October, Spain is providing a vital platform to accelerate global action that links water, sanitation, and climate resilience. Our sector ministers' meetings, and this one, present a unique opportunity to drive collective and coordinated action. And that is, after all, at the heart of our whole partnership. Over the past 15 years, SWA high-level meetings have been the only regular minister-level global forums dedicated to water and sanitation. They bring together ministers responsible for water, for sanitation and hygiene, but also increasingly with their counterparts responsible for climate, for environment, for health, and for the broader economy. The sector ministers' meetings create a space for those leaders to discuss strategies, to identify solutions, and to explore innovative ways to elevate the political prioritization of water, sanitation, and hygiene. And in the very challenging global context we find ourselves in at the moment, I think meetings like the sector ministers' meetings become increasingly indispensable. They offer a safe space for ministers from different sectors to speak openly, to exchange insights, and to build lasting relationships. They convert individual leadership into coordinated momentum, fostering trust, driving bold decisions, reinforcing national strategies through shared global purpose. I think it's particularly important that we're having our meeting now as we approach key milestones like COP30 and, of course, next year, the next UN Water Conference. This meeting can serve as a vital catalyst, aligning national action with international goals and keeping water and sanitation central to national economic development, sustainability, and climate resilience. And I think just in finishing, I think it's important to remind ourselves that while the SMM is a really important event in and of itself, it's also a milestone on our partnership's journey towards equity, resilience, and prosperity. What comes before it and what comes after it are as important as the meeting itself. That's why these next 6 months are so important, and let us therefore make full use of them to come together at the national level to prepare ministers for the sector ministers' meeting, and in so doing, to build the foundations to transform our shared vision into political will and impact. Thank you all for being here. I'm looking forward to a very fruitful conversation. And with that, back to you, Anjani.
Thank you so much, Patrick. And now we move on to Spain. I have the pleasure of welcoming the government of Spain. Joining us is Conchita Marcuello, Coordinator of International Water Affairs at the Ministry for the Ecological Transition and the Demographic Challenge. Conchita, thank you once again for hosting the sector ministers meeting this year, as our chair of the steering committee also said, and I give you the floor to take us through the details of the meeting, the dates, and also the overarching theme. Over to you.
Muchas gracias, Anjani.
Thank you so much, Anjani. Thank you, Patrick, for your words. Dear representatives of the governments, partners for development, civil society, and different friends from SWA, it's a pleasure to greet you all and to participate in this milestone that is the beginning of the SMM meeting in 2025. Spain has the honor to host this meeting on 22nd and 23rd October 2025. Next slide, please. In the city of Madrid, capital of Spain. Next slide, please.
y que está situada en la cuenca del río Tajo, que es el río
It's
más largo de
located
España
in
y
the
es una de las
Tahoe
cuencas hidrográficas,
Basin.
las 4
It's
grandes cuencas
one of the
hidrográficas
big
compartidas con Portugal. En
basins
Madrid
that we
no
share with
solo podrán ver
Portugal's. In
una de las
Madrid, not
colecciones de
only you'll
pinturas
be
más
able to
valiosas del Museo
see
del Prado,
very
situado
rich
bajo la
culture in the
distancia de las
Prado
emblemáticas
Museum,
plazas de
very
la Puerta del
close to
Sol y
these
la Plaza Mayor,
emblematic
sino también, siguiente
squares that we
diapositiva,
see on
por
the
favor,
screen, but also, next slide, please.
disfrutar del Palacio
You'll be able
Real
to
y sus
enjoy
alrededores.
the
Siguiente
Royal
diapositiva.
Palace and its surroundings. Next slide, please.
O incluso ir
Or
al museo
even
más visitado de
go
España, el
to the
emblemático
most
estadio Santiago
visited
Bernabéu.
museum in
Siguiente
Spain,
diapositiva, por favor.
Santiago Bernabéu Stadium. Next slide, please.
Bueno, ahora de vuelta al trabajo, los
Back
preparativos
to
ya están en
work.
marcha para la
So
reunión
we have
ministerial.
already
La reunión se
started with the
celebrará en
preparation
el
for the
Palacio Municipal
SMM.
de
It will be
IFEMA,
held
que está
in
situado a 15
IFEMA,
minutos en
located
metro del
15
Aeropuerto
minutes
Internacional de Barajas, en
away by
Madrid.
metro from the
Siguiente
international
diapositiva.
airport Barajas in Madrid. Next slide, please.
El Palacio Municipal de IFEMA es un moderno
In
edificio que será el
IFEMA,
escenario
we have a
ideal,
modern
idóneo para la
building that will
celebración de
be
este
the
encuentro
perfect
ministerial,
place to
aunando la
celebrate this
excelencia
meeting,
logística con una
together
fuerte
with
apuesta por la
excellent
sostenibilidad y la
logistics
accesibilidad
and
y contando con
great
todas las instalaciones necesarias
sustainability,
para
and having all the
para esta
necessary
importante cita.
facilities for this
Esta
important
reunión
meeting.
llega en un momento crítico de la agenda
This
internacional.
meeting comes
España
at a timely
acogerá el
moment.
próximo mes de
Spain
junio en
will
Sevilla
host
la
in
cuarta
June in
conferencia
Seville the
internacional
fourth
sobre la
international
financiación para el
conference
desarrollo,
about
en la que se reafirman los
development
compromisos
financing,
mundiales para
where
alinear las
we
finanzas
reaffirm
con
world
el desarrollo
commitments to align
sostenible, y la
finances
reunión de
with
ministros del
sustainable
sector, que se celebrará
development.
en octubre,
And the
ofrece una
ministers'
oportunidad
meeting
única
in
para aprovechar
October
ese impulso
is
y
a
crear a su
unique
vez un puente
opportunity to
hacia la
boost
conferencia de
this
partes número
impulse
30,
and
hacia la
to
COP30
be
de la
a
Convención
great
Mundial de
path
Naciones
to the
Unidas sobre el Cambio Climático,
COP30.
profundizando así la
Also,
colaboración
to
en
talk
materia de
about
clima, recursos
specifically
hídricos,
about
saneamiento y resiliencia.
climate,
Así agradecemos
water,
a la SWA
resilience
su confianza y
cooperation.
colaboración
We
y
thank
esperamos
the
darles la bienvenida a
SWA for
España en
their help and
octubre.
cooperation,
Siguiente
and we are
diapositiva, por
really
favor.
eager to welcome you in Spain in October. Next slide, please.
Esta próxima reunión ministerial
This
brindará un
upcoming
espacio
meeting
único para
will
que los
offer a
ministros
unique space
reflexionen
so that
sobre cómo
ministers
pasar de una
reflect
planificación
on
sectorial
how
aislada
to
a una
go
gestión más
from
integrada del
an
agua, el saneamiento y el
isolated
medio ambiente, que alinee los servicios de agua y saneamiento con la
organization
gestión de
to a
los
more
recursos hídricos y los
integrated
objetivos
one.
climáticos. Para España, esta reunión es
For
una
Spain,
oportunidad
this
clave
meeting is a
para
key
reafirmar los
opportunity
derechos
to
humanos al agua y al
reaffirm human
saneamiento como
rights to
fundamento de la
water and
resiliencia,
sanitation as
para
part of
impulsar una agenda
resilience,
más
to
interconectada
boost a
que
more
enmarque el acceso
interconnected
seguro al
agenda
agua y al saneamiento
connecting
con la gestión
safe
sostenible
access
de
to
los
water and
recursos hídricos
sanitation
y la
with
adaptación
the
climática y la
sustainable
protección del
management
medio
of
ambiente,
water
y
and
contribuir a la
climate
construcción de un
resilience,
diálogo
and
global
also to
sobre la
contribute to
cooperación
advancing
intergubernamental en
discussions on a
materia de
broader
agua,
intergovernmental
especialmente de cara
water
a la
process,
Conferencia de las Naciones Unidas del
especially
Agua
in the
en
run-up to the
2030.
UN Water Conference in
En
2026.
España aportamos a este
In
diálogo, o quisiéramos
Spain,
aportar a este diálogo,
we would
nuestra vasta
like
experiencia en
to
gestión de
incorporate
cuencas
this
hidrográficas
dialogue,
y
your
de
vast
gobernanza integrada de los
experience
recursos hídricos
in
en un entorno de
basin
escasez en muchas
management.
zonas del país y
There are
exacerbado
many
por el
parts
cambio
of the
climático.
countries where we have
Nuestros modelos,
many lacks of
desarrollados a lo largo de
resources,
décadas por
but
el
our
fortalecimiento
models
institucional y
based
cooperación tanto a
on
nivel nacional como de
cooperation
cuenca
and institutional
hidrográfica, pueden
strengthening
servir como
could be
contribuciones
useful as a
valiosas a la
valuable
conversación global
contribution
de
to
los
the
ministros
global
del sector.
conversation of the
Así que
ministers of the
consideramos esta
sector.
reunión
Therefore, we
ministerial no solo
consider
como un
this
importante momento
meeting
político,
not just as
sino
an
como una
important
oportunidad
political
clave
moment, but as
para
a key
alinear
opportunity
políticas
to
e
align
inversiones que
policies and
beneficien a las
investments that
personas,
could
la
benefit the
economía y el
people, the
planeta.
economy, and the
Y pues
planet.
esperamos trabajar con todos
Therefore, we hope
ustedes
to
para que
work
este sea un
together
hito transformador e
to have
inclusivo,
a
y les
very
esperamos a todos
inclusive and
con
unique
mucha ilusión en
milestone,
Madrid
and
en
we are
octubre
really
de
eager to welcome you in
2025.
Madrid in
Muchas gracias.
October 2025. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Conchita, for taking us through those details and for your support and steer these past few months. We are looking forward to working very closely to you going forward till September and hopefully after that as well. So thank you for your engagement and thank you for engagement with the partnership and working closely with us. Next slide, please. Thank you, Anna. Now let's dive into the preparatory aspects of the sector ministers meeting. Joining us is Paul Deverill from Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office in UK, who is also the co-chair of the sector ministers meeting task team. This task team is working closely with the SWA Secretariat to prepare for the sector ministers meeting. Paul, the floor is yours. Please update us about the work of the task team. Over to you.
Okay, thanks very much. And I first like to introduce in absentia my fellow co-chair, Leslie Porries from WaterAid, who is currently on mission and therefore not able to join the meeting today. And thanks also to the government of Spain for agreeing to host this this really important meeting. We think that's incredibly useful, and as Patrick has just said, it's also incredibly timely. So about 6 weeks ago, the high-level political dialogue working group of SWA was instructed to raise a task team to support the sector ministers meeting, and the task team was convened. We have volunteers, as you can see, from a whole range of constituencies, and including the government of Spain itself as host, and also the governments of Zimbabwe and the Palestinian Water Authority. There's ourselves, there's yet another donor, I suppose. And then we also have important representation from civil society organizations and from international institutions, from the UN, and also Aquafed, which is representing the private sector, and in particular a network of utilities, plus the World Bank, WHO, and of course WaterAid. As I said, Leslie is my co-chair of the task force. We also operate very, very closely with the Secretariat, led by, in this case, Anjani, and we are putting together a concert note for the meeting. It's a short concert note, maybe 3-4 pages, which will detail, if you like, the context, the objectives, the results of delivering those objectives, in other words, the outcomes, and a bit on the structure of the meeting. The concept note is being finalized, and to help do that, we have also reached out to a number of governments to say, well, what would your ministers really want to see? What do they want to see? And what can we do to make sure they get the most out of this meeting? And so we're taking into account what those comments are as well. But the overall theme, as Conchita has just said, is if you like, the integration of WASH with water resources, climate, and aspects of environmental protection. In that context, we also look at the financial situation, how to finance this, which is also very much, we're picking up messages from countries that would like to see that covered as well. Yep, so that's the meeting. The next stage is we hope to finalize the concept note maybe in a couple of weeks' time. We're just kind of putting it together now, and then it will be used as part of the prep process that Sitali will describe in a few minutes' time. And then we'll move on, the task team will move on once that is done to working to identify the kind of content for the meeting in terms of case studies, structure of the meeting in terms of, for example, the ministerial dialogues, which really form the kind of the interesting bit. Yeah, you have the plenary, then you have ministerial dialogues, then you have further plenary. But those ministerial dialogues are, if you like, groups of maybe 6 to 8 ministers in a safe and small room, yeah, involving themselves in a thematic or sub-thematic discussion, supported by a moderator, supported by additional experts and resources which are drawn from the other constituencies of sanitation and water for all. They're a unique moment, a unique opportunity for ministers to discuss the challenges they face, opportunities and actions. And so it's proved to be highlights of our previous sector ministers meetings, not least in Costa Rica and in Jakarta, and we anticipate the same this time around. So the fantastic facilities from Spain will no doubt accommodate quite a few kind of breakout rooms so to enable those discussions to happen in parallel. Good. So that's the situation as we are now. I'll pass back to Anjani, and she'll no doubt introduce other aspects like Sitali. Over to you, Anjani.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Paul, for those updates, and thanks to all the partners that we can see on the slide who are supporting the task team to prepare for the sector ministers meeting. Now we move from global efforts to the national ones, and I invite my colleague Muyatwa Sitali, who will be taking us through the country level preparatory process for the sector ministers meeting. Sitali, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Anjani. Good morning, good afternoon, buenos dias, bom dia, boa tarde. Thanks for joining us today. I will take you through the preparatory process for this meeting. Those of you who have been with SWA for a while, you will realize that when we organize high-level meetings, we really start with a robust preparatory process, which runs about 6 months ahead of the meeting. The purpose of that is really to ensure that the meeting itself is rich and does drive action, and that there are multi-stakeholder, multi-sectoral conversations at country level that identify what the actual bottlenecks or problems are, and also identify solutions and lead to an actual change post the meeting. So as Patrick was indicating a couple of times, this meeting itself in October is, of course, a very important milestone at the point at which it happens, but the processes related to that start way before, and the consequences of that meeting are also meant to be long-lasting, well beyond the meeting. The preparatory process is often led at country level by the national government, so it's a government-led process. It is meant to be multi-stakeholder in nature, so that it involves other different types of stakeholders, such as the civil society, the private sector, the research and learning institutions, the service providers in terms of utilities, as well as regulators, and also including the external support agencies. These are agencies that include the bilateral, multilateral financing institutions and philanthropic agencies, as well as UN agencies. So it reflects the architecture of SWA, but primarily because government cannot do it alone, we need to work together. So the preparatory process will identify global and national challenges affecting progress in the sector. It will also identify the silos or the sectoral silos that could limit success in terms of taking a multi-stakeholder, multi-sectoral progress in achieving SDG 6, but in particular addressing the topics of water, sanitation, and environment. And it will also identify risks and vulnerabilities that could potentially hold back progress or even negate the gains that have already been made. And as a critical part of that process, the cost of inaction would really help to put in front of ministers and other decision makers what would be the consequences if there were no action. So that those are sort of 3 key things that we hope the preparatory process can help to identify. In addition to that, the preparatory process should also demonstrate the results that can be achieved by breaking these silos, by working together, water, sanitation, and environment hand in hand. And that will obviously depend on looking at existing case studies, existing success stories that could also inspire hope and ensure that ambitions are generated that are also achievable. The preparatory process will also demonstrate the smart and cost-effective solutions, because in the current context, the value for each dollar really is important, and how far we can take it is obviously extremely important. So we would be looking for smart solutions, cost-effective solutions that can be shown and demonstrated to ministers in terms of bridging these barriers, and also in identifying the types of actions that ministers and other decision makers can take. Hopefully that then takes us to the 3rd item, which is to create opportunities for joint actions. across government, so between ministries responsible for water, sanitation, and hygiene, and their counterparts in environment, in planning, and finance, but also across different types of stakeholders, government working with businesses, government working with civil society, and all the sector players working together. What are the opportunities that emerge in this related to this theme? This will also create solutions to increase economic and environmental returns for people and planet, and to also create political momentum to support joint action on water, sanitation, and climate. And this political momentum is obviously going to be linked to other ongoing processes, such as Pan-AFCON in Africa, or others related to COP, the UN Water Conference, and potentially in other regions where there would also be specific initiatives that could contribute to this. As I indicated, we'll be using a multi-stakeholder process that is government-led to ensure that ministers are briefed and ready to work on joint initiatives. Shall we go to the next slide, please? Next slide. Thank you so much. So I will take you through the milestones, the one before. I'll take you through the milestones going from now to the meeting. So starting in April and May, if we could go to the last slide, which has April and May. Yes, thank you so much. So today we're doing the kickoff webinar, which we're so grateful you've been able to attend. This will be followed by dissemination of preparatory process materials from the Secretariat that should help you to gain more information about the meeting and the suggestions related to the preparatory activities that you can join in and you can also undertake. From the Secretariat, we will also be reaching out country by country as well as by stakeholder group so that we organize bilateral meetings with the countries, not just with the government, but with all other stakeholders in that country. So we're encouraging all our government counterparts and also our colleagues from the different constituencies in every country, please come together, identify a moment that would be ideal for us to have a conversation in the coming weeks and hopefully before the end of May. This is very important because it will be able to provide more information in these tailored conversations and link also to other initiatives that we may already be working together with in those countries, such as the heads of state initiatives that are already underway in several countries. Then at the end of May, we will hold regional webinars to look at practical solutions on how water, sanitation, and hygiene can advance economic and environmental goals for people and for planet. So we're hoping to do that at the end of May. These will be region by region specific webinars, and we hope that that begins to build some of the case studies or the information that would be good to also be sharing with ministers in terms of potential smart solutions that could already be good examples for sharing. What's important about this as well is that when we do it on a region by region basis, that will also help to strengthen some of the connections with what's happening in those regions and also help to bring some of the context related information into those conversations. In the month of May, at the national level, we are encouraging that all our partners, led of course by the government, to start briefing ministers. So please find a moment where you could mention or brief the minister about the sector ministers meeting. It is coming in October, but it is good if they can block those dates so that they are already planning to attend the meeting. We are also asking colleagues at country level to develop roadmaps for preparatory process. These roadmaps are really meant to connect the sector ministers meeting with ongoing country processes. You might be planning a joint sector review. You might be planning a sector coordination meeting. You might be planning perhaps a moment to look at the glass highlight that our colleagues at WHO have just been finalizing and putting together. That's a perfect moment to also connect the dots and bring in the SMM and identify what these milestones are going to look like going towards the meeting. In different regions, this could also link already to other ongoing processes that are already happening in those regions. We request, we ask our colleagues at country level to indicate to us when you might be available to do that country-specific call with us. And you will also have a chance to request for support from the preparatory process help desk, which the Secretariat will put in place. This help desk will have professionals within the team who are able to provide support on some of the tools that we'll be proposing for the preparatory process. And I will mention some of those as we go. Can we go to the next slide, please? So for June and July, we at the global level, we will continue with the country-specific meetings as well as the constituency meetings. So this will follow up with some of the constituencies. In some of the constituencies, they will be they might be preparing some joint messages that they will be using. So those will be tailored to their own stakeholder group. We also will be identifying delegations or delegates from the different stakeholder groups. As you know, space is always an issue when you have ministers. We would like to make sure that we go through this process in the right way as we've done in the past. We will issue a call for expression of interest for the different stakeholder groups so that you know who can apply, who would be a good candidate to attend these meetings. This is a ministerial meeting and would like to make sure that it's the heads of agencies or leaders that are able to also join the ministers and participate, contribute, and even take part in some of the activities that will be happening in terms of supporting the smooth flow of the meeting. At the global level, and also in regional level, we will continue to engage with different countries that are participating in the heads of state initiatives. These are initiatives that are supporting presidents, prime ministers who are prioritizing water and sanitation and linking it to other SDGs. Some of these countries already have a compact or a presidential initiative and would like to see a stronger connection also in terms of how those countries are also bringing some of the examples of synergy to this conversation. I mentioned PanAfcon already happening at the end of next month, so we'll have a colleague. I will have a colleague there as well, and partners that will be participating in some events there, and also reaching out to ministers and other delegates to encourage them to participate, but also to have additional preparatory conversations. Of course, linking this to the UN Water Conference and other processes globally that will be happening in this time. Ministerial webinar. We'll do a ministerial webinar at the end of July. The purpose of this is to bring a few ministers together, identify some of the issues that keep them awake at night, identify some of the solutions that they have in mind, and pick some of that information to already support some of the in-country conversations, but also link that to the agenda preparation, in particular for the ministerial dialogues that are expected to take place at the sector ministers meeting. At the national level, we encourage our partners to organize interministerial briefings. So in the first 2 months, April and May, we're asking you to brief your specific minister. And then in the second phase, we're asking you to bring several ministers together so that they could begin to have this joint conversation. Perhaps there's already a platform where that happens. That would be the best place to look into and bring the sector ministers meeting and make sure that there's a content, that there's a content-filled conversation related to that. The outcome of the preparatory process at the country level is a country overview. I will explain this a bit later. We hope that in June, July, that drafting will be underway in order for us to be able to comment and provide support in the subsequent months. We also hope that you'll be able to brief ministers and invite them to the ministerial webinar at the end of July, and also confirm confirm ministers' participation for the SMM starting as soon as invitations are received. So this is what we hope for the month of July. Shall we go to the next slide, which is the last one in this series of what's happening month by month. So from August to the meeting, At the global level, we will be distributing information related to the outcomes, the expected outcomes of the SMM. So you'll get a sense of what the meeting will be about and what those outcomes could be. And then to also link this to very specific country processes, such as budgeting process. It might be a sector review or the NDCs, the NAPs. It would be good to already make those connections as we go. We hope to have joint constituency meetings also in August. This will be bringing different stakeholders together to have to share lessons and learning. And then we plan to do a webinar in September, which will be from commitments to action. This will be a moment where we'll be looking at what's coming out of the country preparatory process, what examples are we seeing, and what can we use for the meeting, but also to inspire action. And we will do a light touch virtual Q&A on October 14. The purpose of that Q&A on October 14 is really just basically for us to answer questions, last-minute questions, in case people have not been able to join the meeting on the 26th of September, 26th of September. That meeting in September, we share a lot of information about the agenda, about the runoff show. So please make sure you plan all the meetings, and especially this one also in September. At the national level, we hope that countries will be ready at this point to finalize their country overviews and share them with us. Share those country overviews by September 5 in order for us to be able to comment. It's really a small team, and partners will be obviously also be contributing, but we need to have time in order to look at it and provide good comments. We hope to get more confirmations during that time, but this will already be very close to the meeting. So if for confirmation of meeting ministers, we encourage that to happen sooner rather than later. We also hope to, at that moment, to have all steps done in terms of visas and just confirming who exactly will be at the meeting in that period, August to October. Next slide, please. Then I talked about the country overview. I just wanted to highlight what this document is. It is meant to be a short document, about 4 to 6 pages. It is the document that your minister carries to the meeting. It informs them about the meeting, of course, but it is country specific. It tells them what the issues are in country, the status of progress, and also to show what the commitments or actions the country can take and will take post the meeting. So this is a really good document that is meant to be a short brief for the minister, but it also gives them the tools for them to engage in the meeting. We will share a suggested outline for the meeting, for the country overview. But what is important is that in different countries, you might identify one person in the ministry to prepare it. Others have asked a partner to do it, to prepare the draft document. It's really important that the ministers discuss the contents of these documents, that their view is included, and that they are not ambushed just before the meeting. They're receiving this document and they do not know what the contents are. So it would be good to incorporate that in the roadmap in the run-up to the meeting. Shall we get to the next slide, please? And so just in terms of resources from the Secretariat, we will provide what is called the Country Self-Assessment Tool. This is a tool that we've used with several countries before, but we refined it a bit more last year. We had a meeting with several countries in Senegal that also used this tool, and we got a lot of input. So the Country Self-Assessment links to the theme of the meeting at the moment. It's been updated to be able to do that. It will give you a sense of some of the bottlenecks out of the conversations that you will have at country level, and also some of the actions that could be identified going forward. We've linked this to climate, and it will be useful in that regard. However, if you also have other tools, as we understand, also the GLASS highlights has got components on climate. That would also be a very good tool to go back to and utilize. And other partners might also contribute in that process. The idea is that the sector conversations and sector analysis is robust and rigorous, and that informs the decision-making for what goes into the country overview. We will run a help desk, as I indicated, with experts, with people who are versed in the use of the country self-assessment tool, people who are also providing support on climate and also on the mutual accountability mechanism. We have a communications team. My colleague will speak to that, and they will provide coordination on global messaging. And then there will be coordination across the different constituencies. In terms of the meetings that I mentioned, we will organize with the different constituencies. Final slide for me, which is the next one. Could we get to that, please? So what happens next after this? You will receive from us the materials that relate to this meeting. We will be asking you from a country level to give us, from a country partners, to indicate when you are available to have this one-on-one conversation, country with the secretariat conversation. We will also be arranging, making the information about the help desk available in terms of times and when you could, in terms of the availability of people, so that you could indicate when you would like to speak to the help desk. For the different constituencies, we will have also specific meetings. Emails have already started going out asking for these, for the timelines when we could have these constituency meetings. And of course, informing ministers of the meeting and asking them to save the date is something that we really ask you to do as soon as possible, to make sure that ministers put this in their calendars. Thank you very much. Over to you, Anjani.
Thank you so much, Sitali, for taking us through a lot of information that is going to be so helpful for the partners at the national level to prepare for the sector ministers meeting. Anna, let's go to the next slide, please. And I would request Paul to come back online with us briefly to talk a little bit about how we are connecting the global with the national and how heads of state could be the link for it with the sector ministers meeting. Over to you, Paul, please.
And thanks, Anjani. Anjani, I guess this is the only slide I have, and there's not a really detailed slide after this.
This is the one.
Good, perfect. So Sitali mentioned HOSI, the Heads of State Initiatives, at the beginning of his piece just now. And of course, it is linked to the sector ministers meeting. SWA has got 3 priorities for this year. Yeah, one is the sector ministers meeting. That's fair enough. There's also HOSI, the Heads of State Initiatives, and finally, its work on climate. And in fact, the sector ministers meeting brings all 3 of those things together. So you probably know about HOSI, but in short, what it does is simply takes the level of engagement up from a minister responsible for water or sanitation up to the highest political level in the country, the head of state or the head of government, so that he or she champions the sector, and also in that sense establishes a set of commitments and then actions those commitments. This can be incredibly powerful if the context, noting that the context of our meeting is integration. So bringing together different ministries, different organs of government to work on one theme is really quite difficult if you are a minister. At a higher level, it becomes somewhat easier. Equally, if you're to look at how a sector is financed, those discussions often involve the Ministry of Finance, for example, or involve making changes to how sectors operate and their performance. Some of those reforms can also happen from beyond the sector, driven by a head of state or government. So that's why SWA is engaging, and it's not engaging alone. This process is in fact driven by governments themselves, and development partners are supporting the governments to do this. And there is also a small group of core partners behind HOSI, which include UNICEF and SWA, which include WaterAid, which include IRC, which include the Netherlands government and the UK government, and more, hopefully, joining that group. Now, what does this mean in practice? Well, we're still working on the detail of the concept note as we discussed earlier, but there will be opportunities within or around the meeting to talk about HOSI and its relevance in this context. That could be, for example, in the context of a sub-theme, which could be could be a sub-theme, which is the focus of one of the sets of ministerial dialogues, or it could be a side meeting organized before or after the main events in the sector ministers meeting. We'll sort out the details, but will really amplify its relevance and how HOSI can actually help achieve the objectives of the sector ministers meeting. In the meantime, we've got the prep process. Now, there's 3 countries which have already launched their compacts, and I think by the time that the meeting is actually held, we'll have maybe another 3 or 4 countries as well, and they can share their experiences, why they bothered, what has resulted from it, the process, how have they done it, and looking ahead, the way forward. And I think the sector ministers meeting provides a great opportunity to do that, and also provides a milestone in the context of looking ahead to the UN Water Conference in 2026. Because one thing is clear, that leadership, government leadership, supported by development partners, is going to be so important as we look to the future of the sector and the future of global development as well. So that's a very short take. Details will follow, and I'll hand back to Anjani.
Thank you so much, Paul, and thank you for providing that line of sight to other ongoing events, COP30, but also for next year, the UN Water Conference. And now I will hand over to my colleague Hope Mills, who would be taking us through some of the communications efforts, and also, as we are a partnership over 450 strong, how we can come together to talk more about the sector ministers meeting, but also use it as a moment for advocacy and accountability. Over to you, Hope.
Thank you. I am excited to share some of the communication materials that we've developed for launch. This will be growing as the months go on, and we will be kind of rolling out different aspects of the toolkit. You can go to the next slide. But first, I want to give you all an opportunity to stay connected with us. We have 2 QR codes. On the left is a WhatsApp channel that developed for the ministers meeting in Madrid. This is where we'll stay connected with attendees and partners ahead of time and during the event itself. So you can join right now by putting the camera on your phone and connecting directly to the WhatsApp channel. We're also going to be kicking off a communications task team. So if you're in communications, you want to be, or you have colleagues who are, you can also do a photo connection with the QR code on the right, and that will connect you to my colleague Alicia's email address. And she will collect your emails, and then we'll be in touch within the next week of setting up some kind of monthly connection points with new content that we have, new assets we may be rolling out, and just kind of the sharing of ideas. So I'll leave that up for a few more minutes. And I think we learned in the last session that it's really helpful to have these 2 things in the chat. So we'll add those there, but also know that both links are available in the Trello board, which is something I'm sending out to you all after this meeting. And we can go to the next slide. So these are save the dates for our really exciting meeting in Madrid this October. We have these available in 4 languages and 2 different orientations. And they're an example of something that is going to be on the Trello board I mentioned. Also, the Zoom background that you can see in my background, you can see it, and Johnny's will be there as well. And then the PowerPoint template that we have been using today is also there. So these are tools that you can use in the coming months and in the conversations that Sitali was referring to. We also have the logos in 4 languages, French, English, Spanish, and Portuguese, as well as social media cards. So those will be updated probably the most frequently in the coming months as we confirm language, we confirm messaging and themes. As we do quotes and interviews, you'll have access to all of that content and some really beautifully designed cards that you can share with your networks. And the next slide will give you just a little taste. These are placeholders. The content isn't live, but you can get a sense of how we'll be approaching it. They'll be sized appropriately, so it'll be a very easy download for you. We also have an official hashtag, Madrid SMM, and we ask that anytime you're posting on social that you use this. It helps us to track the conversations happening and bringing them together. We will, similar to WhatsApp, be using this in the months leading up and during the event itself. So you can start using it today, next week, but please do commit that to your social platforms when you're talking about the SMM. I think the last slide is an example of what we're going to be sending you next week, which is a follow-up email to this webinar. So you'll have the recordings. Yeah, you can go to the next slide. You'll have the recordings that you've participated in, a link to the Trello board that I've been mentioning with these phase 1 assets. If you haven't used Trello before, it's very user-friendly, but we're also available for any questions or any troubleshooting ideas you have or what you need help with. And then we'll also include the save the dates that you saw a bit earlier in all the languages I mentioned. The Zooms are also in French, English, Spanish, and Portuguese, and there's a variety of color options that you can choose from as well, so you can switch it up in the 6 months leading up to the event. And I think if there are questions, I'll look at the Q&A. Otherwise, Anjani, I'll pass it back to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Hope. I have been answering a lot of questions in the Q&A, and there's nothing in the chat, but I completely understand this is the start of the conversation for us. There's a lot to digest, especially the country level preparatory process with its milestones, but also all the excitement around it, because it is an excellent moment for collaboration and partnership as well, which is the unique selling point of the partnership. Let's go to the next slide, but I've been taking questions. I don't see any more. So we are doing great on time, as we did for the morning session as well. I'm happy to give you the 9 minutes back. I will give you a quick context of the content, so of all the contacts that you can reach out to. Next slide, please, Anna. So these are all the contacts from of the SWA Secretariat and the staff members. On top of it is the country engagement team, which will support you with the national preparatory process. Then if you have any particular questions or suggestions for the global preparatory process, which we are working on around the concept note, the agenda, as Paul mentioned, and if you have questions related to that, please feel free to reach out to me. We also have the contact of the comms lead, Hope, who you just met virtually in the last presentation. This is the first time, as Sitali mentioned, we will be using the country self-assessments as a tool to prepare the country overview and to also talk about the mutual accountability mechanism commitments. So feel free to reach out to our colleague, Philippa, as well. We will share the presentation, as some of you have asked in the chat. We will also share the guidance note and any other related templates that will support you with the country preparatory process. So thank you for your time and attention. We look forward to working with you as usual, but more so in the coming 6 months in the run-up to the sector ministers meeting. Thank you so much, and I close the webinar now. Talk to you in the country calls. Bye, everyone.